This is beautiful.
A proud mother shows off a room dedicated to her daughter, Asia Graham. An American flag, pictures of her time in the Army.
She loved the military. Loved, loved, loved. She loved being a soldier.
That I will support and defend.
This is Asia taking the military oath after enlisting in 2019.
All enemies.
Foreign and domestic.
Foreign and domestic.
A promise to fend off enemies of the United States, not knowing she would need protection herself from a danger within the military months later.
Asia referred to it as the incident. She couldn't tell me her pain. She didn't want to burden me.
The incident Asia couldn't say out loud, a sexual assault by this man, Christian Alvarado, a fellow soldier, both stationed at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. According to this signed confession obtained from the Army, Alvarado told the investigators she was drunk and so was I. We had sex, but she passed out. When asked why he continued to have sex with Asia, Alvarado replied, "I was in the moment." During the same interrogation, the 20-year-old was questioned about a second sexual assault allegation involving a different woman. Alvarado told the military investigator that sex with her was wrong due to how intoxicated she was. Had Alvarado been a civilian, a state prosecutor likely would have charged them with a crime. A judge would then have placed him in pretrial confinement or jail to wait for his day in court if he couldn't afford to post bail. But that's not how it works in the Army. Military commanders determine whether soldiers accused of crimes get pretrial confinement. And according to the Army, Alvarado's commander let him go at the time.
Alvarado was free to walk around, and they put him 2 doors down from Asia's room in the same freaking barracks, same unit.
A month later, a third woman accused Alvarado of sexual assault.
They should have locked him up as soon as Asia said something.
Instead, Alvarado's commanders would later give him permission to leave the base.
Why would you grant this guy the privilege of leave, knowing that there are 3 allegations that he's a sexual predator?
Jeffrey Korn is the director of the Center for Military Law and Policy at Texas Tech University. He served as a military prosecutor and a public defender.
From what I know about the case at Fort Bliss, I would have recommended pretrial confinement.
An investigation by our partners at ProPublica and the Texas Tribune uncovered the potential problem. The news organizations analyzed nearly 8,400 courts-martial over the past decade. It found soldiers accused of sexual assault are less than half as likely to be placed in pretrial confinement as those accused of other offenses, like drug use and distribution, disobeying an officer, or burglary. It's happening in Army bases across the country. At Fort Riley in Kansas, soldiers accused of other offenses were placed in pretrial confinement more than twice as often than when accused of sexual assault. At Fort Belvoir in Virginia, it was more than 3 times as higher.
This is my wristband from in jail.
Olivia Ochoa understands the impact. While stationed at Fort Huachuca in Arizona, the Army charged her with using and possessing drugs and disobeying orders. She spent 103 days in pretrial confinement, most of that time spent alone.
It's like I was falling apart, but every day I was just like, it's okay, I'm okay. You know what I mean? But honestly,
But you weren't okay.
I wasn't okay, no.
Ochoa stopped eating, barely slept, and began losing her hair. At one point, she tried to take her own life.
There's no way, you know what I mean? There's no way a person should be treated like this.
Ochoa doesn't think she received fair treatment after learning commanders did not immediately put Alvarado in pretrial confinement following multiple claims of sexual assault.
I just felt like, how did you see me like at the same level as this guy? I just feel like me smoking a little bit of weed is not the equivalent of that in any way.
Before she left the Army, Ochoa reported a fellow soldier raped her off base weeks before being placed in confinement. Both were drinking. She passed out.
When I had woken up, he was on top of me. He was in the process of raping me.
The military found no probable cause to charge her accused.
It was pretty clear to me, like pretty immediately, that no one believed me. I think they just figured like she's just a druggie trying to get out of her charges, trying to get some sympathy.
A Huachuca spokesperson said the Army takes sexual assault allegations seriously and conducted a thorough and independent investigation into Ochoa's case. Back in Fort Bliss, commanders finally put Alvarado on pretrial confinement in March 2021 after 2 more women came forward with sexual assault claims. A military judge found him guilty of sexually assaulting Asia and another woman. He's serving 18 years in a military prison.
What this story has exposed is there's this sliver of this whole broader sexual assault response effort that's kind of been overlooked, and that's pretrial restraint.
Asia never got to see her room full of tributes.
This is when she was a baby.
She died from an accidental overdose on New Year's Eve 2020. Her mom believes Asia was self-medicating to numb the trauma from her sexual assault. She was 19 years old.
Do you blame the Army for your daughter's death?
Yes, because they failed her. They failed to help her. I gave the Army a healthy 19-year-old girl, strong and everything, and I got back a box with a flag on top.